Hey guys, what's up? Stock Retail coming back to you on Monday the 28th. Another quite eventful day after quite an eventful weekend after quite an eventful week. If you're in AMC, never a dull moment. The circus goes on. But as long as it goes on, apes are still here. We keep fighting. We've had some conversations about that recently here on this channel, and just about what does it mean to be an ape, and are we apes on sort of rainy days as well as sunny days? And you know my point of view on that. So here I am, and I'm going to keep going. If you don't know, Equalizer 3 is coming out this Friday. That's why I'm kind of using that image. I'm pretty excited about that. I love those movies. I love when Denzel kicks bad guys' butts. Some good imagery here, too, about justice. You kind of see that in the reflection there. If you haven't seen those movies, it's basically a character who has a special set of skills who fights for the little guy. Has to deal with some dark situations, but fights for the little guy. And I love the tagline there at the bottom too. Sorry, it's a little bit of a grainy image, but under this you can see "Witness the final chapter." Sure feels like that if you've been in AMC. Sure feels like we're on some kind of boss level or final chapter here. Dip before the rip, whatever cliche you want to use. But so today I want to talk a little bit about what I've been seeing. I know typically this channel's been a DD channel, and I promise to keep staying to that. A lot of talk about fundamentals. You guys know my background if you've been around for a little bit. But also something I do is I share observations about what I see out there. I once even did a whole video where I kind of shared with you guys a little bit about my journey in AMC and how odd it was that I got in the middle of some of the biggest accounts you could think of at one time or another. Sometimes they were good people, sometimes they were not good people, and you discover that along the way too. And so I don't know, I'm just an account who happens to see some things and people share some things with me. And so I like to try to connect some dots for myself. And then if I see that, I share that with you. So that's a little more what we're going to do today. And you can see this title, Can the Manipulator Bump the Informed Investor? Hang with me because I want to bring together some things that are happening. And so what I happened to kind of stumble across today, and it really was, I stumbled on it, was an old academic article. I say old, but I mean, it's from the early 2000s, so it's not that old. And it's research on market manipulation. So I'm going to show you this article, talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to tie it to the things we've actually seen literally even just today, and in the last few days, and some activities that we're seeing. And it's a reminder of what this is, what the play is against us, and what the play is for us. So here's the title of that article. You could always go find this for yourself, check it out. It's like a 60-page article, so you'll have to decide you really want to do some reading. I've pulled out a bunch of snippets for you I'm going to share. Short selling, death spiral convertibles, and the profitability of stock market manipulation. So I'm just playing around. Sometimes on Twitter or whatever, we use those little eyes like, ooh, what's happening here? Look at this. And so I want to just share with you, like I said, and tie that to some things going on. And I always say on this channel, or if you follow me on Twitter, facts over FUD. Facts and data help us see through the FUD and not be, actually, I say, not be manipulated. So I think if you educate yourself a little bit on, here's even academic research about how people manipulate the market and what they try to do to you, the more you know, I'm not trying to be, the NBC PSA, the more you know. But anyway, the more you know, the more you can push back and inform yourself. So we're going to go through that a little bit. First off, the paper just notes naked short selling can routinely occur within the securities clearing system in the United States. And so this is kind of, this person explains, characterizes it as potentially severe market impact. I mean, we just got to ground ourselves right there. Like, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with an issue that potentially has severe market impact. Again, this is not just apes making this up. I'm going to highlight that over and over. This isn't conspiracy theories. This is academic research. And, you could go find lots more. I've told you that before on this channel, too. Look at this. Interesting to note. What have we been dealing with? It is about 4:30 here on the West Coast, 4:40. I haven't had a chance to check the threshold list today. That usually doesn't even come out by now. I'm sure apes will be checking that a bit later. Perhaps today is day 46 on the threshold list. Don't know, but we certainly hit 45 days. And before that, we had several other times we were on the threshold list. We've basically been on it effectively about half of the year. So think about fails to deliver, right? We've been seeing that a lot in AMC. Well, let's see what academic research has to say about that. Growing concern that naked short selling masquerading as routine fails to deliver had impaired market efficiency. So this is talking about back in 2003, that the SEC had begun to have that concern, and that's where we got Reg Show. So Reg Show is kind of actually effectively what's created the threshold list and some other things like that. But we know that we're still dealing with this issue, right? And this paper is going to even talk about that. What is going on, right? So manipulation is the intentional interference with the free forces of supply and demand. So our stock, how many times do you see people posting, I think on Friday even, it was maybe like 8-to-1 almost, buys to sells on Fidelity. Now granted, that's like a count. It's not necessarily a total amount of shares. It's like a count of orders. But same thing we see like on Webull, sometimes people show the inflow versus the outflow. That's been very high. There's that OBV metric apes have been looking at. There's a lot of different signals, and even just anecdotally, I think I showed you guys, I ran a poll, and it was like, I don't know, 1,500 people replied, and 97% said they hadn't sold any shares in the last week. Granted, that is not scientific, that poll, and I've been pretty transparent about that. But nonetheless, it's just all these data points combined start to perhaps add up a little bit, and saying that I don't think apes are leaving. Certainly I'm not. So the laws of supply and demand would say, hey, there should be some kind of buying pressure here, and then why is that not happening? And, if you don't want to listen to apes and you don't want to listen to academic research, you guys might remember from 2021, this is just a screenshot from a news article, the time the president of the NYSE, the stock exchange, I'm just saying here, said the quiet part out loud. So look at this quote: meme stock prices may not properly reflect demand. Go find that article or various other articles. You might recall, and this was the president of the NYSE at the time, and is no longer, I believe, had basically said, yeah, there's a lot of dark pool activity, off-exchange activity. That was more around that. That is basically pulling away from price action, demand pushing price action. So, it's, again, manipulation of prices. Well, let's keep going. So manipulation, sorry, we already talked about that one. Let's skip forward. So it can drive the price of a stock lower. I was gaslighted many, many times early in my journey in AMC. I still remember in the spring of 2021, I even remember where I was when I saw this, because I was on a walk on vacation, and kind of what turned out to effectively be a short who was kind of trying to manipulate me, was telling me all about how short selling does not impact the price of stocks. And instantly, every flag was going off in my head that, wait, that doesn't make sense. And this was before I was more educated on all these issues. So they'll try to tell you in the face, like, hey, this doesn't even matter, you're dumb, you don't even know how the market works. Well, here we go. So naked short selling can increase the manipulator's profit. I'm just going to read the underlined parts. Buying the shares to cover, in this case, her short position at lower prices than the selling prices can drive the price of a stock lower by selling short a larger number of shares. So what's happening to us, right? We talk about short ladder attacks. If you look at how much a percent has been getting sold short, not just on the lit exchange, but on the dark pools lately, all the shorts mismarked as long, the short exceptions we've been seeing, short exemptions, we know for sure, and the FTDs, all of those effectively. I just read to you a minute ago that basically FTDs are used as naked short shares. Naked short selling. All right, so the manipulator, here's the key. Look at this headline I'm giving you. Manipulator drives informed investor from the market. Let's read their language from this research. Is it possible for the manipulator to drive the informed investor out of the market? They ask this. The greater volume of short sales could alert active traders to the greater risk that the market is manipulated. They go on to say, the manipulator drives the informed investor from the market. Now they have a whole equation. They're basically trying to show with math in this article, it's kind of advanced finance, that there are conditions which the manipulator could drive other people, other informed investors, away from a stock. What have we been experiencing for 2.5 years, and especially lately? File that away in your head for a minute. We're going to talk about that. But just think about that idea. A manipulator could effectively drive an informed investor away from a stock. How else do they do that? Again, we're looking at this research article still. By naked shorting, the manipulator appears to be a long seller. That's kind of interesting, right? having the appearance of being a long but actually being short. Ever seen anybody flip on you in the ape movement? The manipulator may also spread negative news, boy, we've seen that, to reinforce the negative sell signal that the stock is overvalued in order to reduce, now this is kind of a value from the formula, but just think of basically the price. He will spread negative news in both cases. We've certainly seen two versions of this. One, someone appearing to be a long seller, someone appearing to, I guess I talked about apes flipping a minute ago, we're going to come back to that. This is the wrong slide for that. But someone appearing to be a long seller, making it look like everybody's selling, get out, right? But really they're a short seller. Okay, that's one. So remember that. It looks like somebody is selling, but we know they're not. And then spreading negative news, which we call short and distort. There's a reason we talk about that. Here you go. So the manipulator acts like an informed investor. Sorry for the typo. Hard to discern their motivation. That's the part I was talking about a minute ago. The manipulator at times acts like an informed investor and at other times like a manipulator. It's difficult to discern their true motivation. For example, when investigating the possibility of market manipulation without knowing the true intrinsic value of shares. This kind of has to do with talking about how the SEC could kind of deal with it. But just think about this part where the manipulator acts like an investor at times. Difficult to discern what they're really doing. That's where I believe we've had a lot of infiltration as well. Somebody kind of acting like they're with us, but now this is actually talking a little bit more mathematically, but I would say you could talk about that psychologically as well. Acting like they're with us, acting like they're an investor, all the while they're actually manipulating sentiment and trying to spread negativity and despair among us. I've got plenty of people around me who try to do that and have tried in the past. Let's come back to FTDs. Interesting note in this research article from a while back. Strategic fails to deliver are pervasive, and they're questioning even the effectiveness of the reg show rules. No, apes are already questioning it. You guys are saying like half of the year we've been on the threshold list. I don't think this is working. Fair critique. I don't think that law is working either. I don't think anybody's enforcing, and I don't think what's actually there has enough teeth in it. Frankly, I think if you do these things, you should lose your license. Like if you're a broker, you should just be shut down. And I don't care how big you are. And, there should probably be some jail and not just fines for some people. Anyway, so here we go. Evidence suggests that strategic fails to deliver are pervasive and not confined to the over-the-counter market. Impact of these fails to deliver has never been investigated, however. Now, this is back, like I said, kind of getting close to 2008, 2009, when a lot of stuff was going down. A related question, whether this regulation has had the intended effect of curbing abusive short sales. Well, we know now it hasn't, right? But so here's someone all the way back then saying strategic. Now, strategic is a nice way of saying cheating or on purpose cheating, right? So that's all. Let's replace this word. Evidence suggests that people cheat with fails to deliver so much that they're using this term pervasive, and that the full impact at that time hadn't been discovered. But now go back to strategic or cheating on purpose, fails to deliver, have been used to drive the stock price down and are effectively naked short selling. This is what we're dealing with, guys. Not just this, oh, everybody's selling, the price is going down, oh, we were wrong about the reverse split, AMC might go bankrupt, all that stuff. That's none of it. You're experiencing the manipulator trying to drive the informed investor out of the stock. That's my point of view. You are being manipulated. So let's just ask some logical questions. Why did this extreme dip start before the reverse split and before any dilution? It's worth asking. It's worth considering. Think through what you feel about that and what you have seen. Why are there all these attacks? Attacks on Adam, attacks on the company, attacks on the apes. Why are known bad actors, people we know are against us, coming together? Why are they all coming together at this time? Why are there short and distort articles? Seeking Alpha ran one recently. Here's AMC in the middle of its second profitable quarter in a row, and Seeking Alpha is running articles talking about bankruptcy. And we already just gave AMC access to capital. It has all the shares it needs to basically never go bankrupt. Interesting. Why all of this right now? You could almost feel like this was manipulation. All of it happening all at once and at extreme levels we have not seen yet. All in the middle of ape converting and the settlement happening. And by the way, ape conversion is not fully complete yet. There are some of you who even see that that's not complete, and some people are starting to see smoke signals or little bits of evidence that maybe there's odd things happening with ape, perhaps on the OTC markets. I can't say much more because I need to do more DD on that, but let's just say ape's eyes are open and we're trying to figure out what's going on. Why all of this now? Worth asking. I've got some points of view about that. But let's come back to what this article, not article, it's a research paper. The manipulator drives the informed investor from the market. So let's inform ourselves so that we cannot be manipulated. We just had profits in Q2. We just had the biggest July in revenue in AMC's 103-year history. We're likely in the middle of Q3 profits. My forecast is still showing that. I've been very accurate in past forecasts. I always say it doesn't mean I'll be accurate again this time. But if I've got any kind of track record on that, we're right at profits again in Q3. Popcorn's been growing. You know, you heard me say recently, I believe it's probably October, maybe October, November. We're going to expand from 3,000 doors almost at Walmart to potentially starting to be in other chains and adding thousands more doors for popcorn. Candy coming. I have no doubt that apes are going to respond to that just as we responded to the popcorn. Not to mention, we haven't talked here on this channel yet about the business model there, but remember, effectively they'll be able to sell candy for less when you go to the movies. So now we're not just talking grocery stores, we're talking about what you're buying at the movies. They'll sell it for less, so you win, we win, while AMC actually keeps a higher profit margin, so they win. So we pay less and they keep more. That's a pretty big win-win for our company and for us. That's another reason I'm excited for candy, because that one will be a double hit. Popcorn, they already sold, right? They already had that at the movie theaters, and they just added the grocery stores and us ordering it online. Candy is a double hit. They're going to add that in grocery stores and in theaters. They don't have their own candy right now in theaters. So that one's going to be, I think, surprisingly big, I hope. And then let's just not forget, we have access to capital. AMC can sell shares. Yes, that's dilution, but we've talked a lot about on this channel the fact that the flip side of dilution, you don't just raise that cash and then sit on it. If they turn around and pay off debt at a big discount, the difference you pocket and you add value to the existing shares. So it's not just dilution, it's value creation. I will continue to hammer that until we all understand it. These are the things that are real, right? These are the things actually going on. You know, yesterday was National Cinema Day. We all saw pictures of one AMC, I don't know actually, I think it was an AMC, had a sign up, basically sold out, sorry, no more tickets today. I checked mine and it was more busy than usual by quite a bit. A lot of you were posting pictures either of people lined up at concessions or just pictures of like the seats being sold. Yesterday was a big day, and I have no doubt that AMC sold a ton of food and beverage, concessions yesterday. There is much to celebrate right now. But what are you seeing that seems celebratory out there? Are you seeing any positive news right now? No, and it's a quiet period for our leadership because of all this corporate action going on. Perhaps you've seen some posts about that. They're kind of in a quiet period where they've got to be careful that they aren't accused of manipulation. And there are some heavy attacks happening during this quiet period. Seems pretty strategic, no? Seems like a real good timing choice by our opponents, which should tell you again, the manipulator drives the informed investor from the market. Are you going to let that happen to you? That's the question. That's the question on my mind. Am I going to let that happen to me? Am I going to let them manipulate the price of a stock and manipulate sentiment to bump me off my corner? Or am I going to push back and say, no, I know what's happening in this business. You cannot fool me. Now remember the original thesis. I can hold longer than you can stay solvent. That was the original thesis. That fits. You cannot manipulate me. You cannot bump me off of this spot because I know you cannot wait forever. And I can wait longer than you can. That was the thesis. And that was the thesis when AMC actually had financial woes and was struggling and trying to figure out how to survive and needing to refinance debt and all of these kinds of things. And they got real creative, and we didn't leave, and we helped each other. And now AMC has gotten a lot stronger. So now, when we're stronger and we're in the middle of profits, now you want me to leave? No, thank you. I can hold longer than you can stay solvent. Now let's talk a little bit about Team Distort. Now, before I go there, I want you to remember this idea from this academic research paper that, by the way, is posted on the SEC's website also. The manipulator drives the informed investor from the market. Okay? Now have that in your mind, and let's talk about this. So here's something I kind of tweeted today. Don't have to pay too much attention to the tweet. I just was talking about these guys. There was a space call. Someone had kind of sent me a picture of this. Thank you. If you're listening, you kind of know who you are. And if you look at this, if you're not a Twitter ape, let me just tell you right now, this is some of, not all of, but some of the who's who of distorters and manipulators. These are people who have been negative even on our positive days. These are people who have been bullies, who have been terrible human beings, who have attacked people, lied about people, lied to people, gaslighted apes, spread all kinds of negativity for almost 3 years. There is not one person pictured here who, in my opinion, has any moral fiber whatsoever. These are not people I trust. These are not people I would ever listen to. These are not people I would associate with. And anyone who would associate with them, I would disassociate with. That is how strongly I feel about these people. And I've done it. I've done it to where there's people I find out that are connected to some of these people, and I say, sorry, if you won't listen to reason. You know, I give them a chance. I'm someone who believes in grace. But then at some point I'm like, all right, you've chosen your side, and I know what that means, and I'm not going to allow you to manipulate me, an informed investor, to leave this market. That is who this group is. When you see Matt Kohrs, let's talk a little bit about him. You know, if you don't know, he plugged FTX to you guys. He tried to sell FTX to apes. He was sponsored by FTX and sold FTX to you guys and sold it to you as, hey, these guys are awesome. They're one of us. They're not a suit. They won't rip you off. That's literally how he sold it. What did they do? They literally ran a Ponzi scheme where they ripped you off. And I'm going to show you some DD in a minute that I knew ahead of time how bad they were and how they were part of actually trying to stop AMC. Yes, I said that. Matt Kohrs pushed FTX on you, and FTX was actually part of the formula to try to stop the AMC movement. That's who these people are. These are people who take your money while trying to take more of your money. The manipulator moves the informed investor out of the market. You need to know this stuff. They're out there selling you fanny packs while they're selling you lies and getting you on both sides. And then who do they have on? Right? Here's the thing. There's something I believe. If you ever tried to rip open one of those plastic casings, like you buy a toy for your kid, or you buy, I don't know, a new set of hair clippers or something, and it's in this like vacuum sealed, like melted, closed plastic, and boy, you cannot rip that open with your hands, right? And I could show you, if I just took a little pair of nail clippers and I just cut this tiny little cut in that plastic, suddenly I can rip the whole thing apart. And the reason I'm talking to you about that is when someone has a moral defect, when someone has a lack of integrity that's as small as a tiny cut in one area of their life, boy, you better watch out, because they're going to have problems throughout. And a little bit of integrity problem lets you rip the whole thing apart. When you compromise the integrity of that package in the littlest way, you can rip the whole thing open. And if you don't know anything about Cohodes, when he came on the scene, real apes knew right away this guy's bad news. First of all, he's a short seller. Anything he says, you already know he's got a past history of lying. Just look him up on the SEC itself. You can find article after article, complaint after complaint, case after case, actual court cases as well, of this guy's problems with integrity. I have no problem saying publicly, I question the integrity of both of these people. And then, even if you don't want to believe me on that, when he came, he was using racial terms, he was attacking people, he was bullying people. And oh, by the way, if you don't know, before I'd ever even heard of him, he already blocked me. The guy got a list of apes and pre-blocked apes, including me. Why? Why would someone have given this guy a list, and why would he have blocked me before I've ever even heard that he exists in the universe? Please ask these type of questions, guys. This is the stuff you're dealing with. The manipulator moves the informed investor out of the market. That's what he came to do. And that is what Matt Kohrs is gladly hosting right now, while Adam's in a silent period, to attack him. These are the people you are dealing with. And by the way, these are the people some of you are giving money to and clicks to. You need to start questioning more. Here's what actually happened. You can find this DD. You see the link up there. I've got a whole Reddit I had done at the time. This is November of 2021. I was well ahead of a lot of the discussion on tokens. That's effectively what this DD was. I don't claim too much credit for that, not more than I'm due, let's say, because there were a lot of other apes who helped me, who had done their own DD, and we kind of put it together a little bit. So this was not all me, and there definitely was stuff even back then that has since happened that even I didn't see coming. But this is you think I'm long-winded on YouTube. If you read my writing sometimes, it goes for a while. And so this was a long Reddit post that spelled out why T0 was bad, why Cohodes had come to undo the entire AMC movement, why we needed to stop listening to Tara and Spence and all of these people, and why they were just all trying to fight against us. The manipulator tries to move the informed investor out of the market. So what they were doing is let's go from top right here. They were creating these securitized tokens. That was the whole plan. And I had done some DD to show you what that really meant. They're basically going to tie all of AMC's business, all of AMC's assets to these tokens. They're backed by AMC effectively. And notice I'm mentioning Binance already. This was November 2021. There was, and FTX was part of this as well. There was a lot of research that said it was a way to basically print synthetic shares. Sound familiar to you guys? That's what Matt Kohrs was pushing on you. That's what Cohodes was pushing on you. That's what Tara pushed on you. That's what Spence pushed on you. A method to create synthetic shares. But it doesn't stop there. They were going to be traded on an alternative trading system. Ever heard of an ATS? When you hear about dark pools, that's on an ATS. It's off exchange. And it's a controlled trading system that you don't have visibility to. So they were going to create these tokens where they could print synthetic shares. They were going to trade them on an ATS that you don't have visibility to. Let's go to the next box. They were going to do it on an order flow market maker exchange. Remember that term, order flow? Orders would be routed and flowed. It was going to allow them to control the flow of orders. And oh, by the way, that exchange, look at the very bottom bullet there, was partially owned by Box. Box was owned by Citadel and Interactive Brokers. You guys talk about Robinhood removing the buy button? IB removed the buy button that same day too. It wasn't just Robinhood. This is what Cohodes was pushing on you. This is what Tara and Spence and Kohrs and the whole crew were pushing on you. And these are the people that Amy and Sugar Kush and Citizen and Pet Rock all work with, and Hedge Reaper. Yeah, I'm calling out names. And if you don't know, when you're dealing with tokens on these exchanges, top left, you can also have transaction fees that are controlled by the person who controls the exchange. Imagine when you buy and sell AMC if you had all kinds of transaction fees. They were going to control this thing end to end. This was their failsafe to stop AMC. These are the people you're dealing with. I'm a little bit worked up today because they'll stop at nothing, and that's what we're seeing. That's what I believe we're in the middle of. None of this bogus garbage about the reverse split did this to us and we lost, and nothing like that. The manipulator uses tactics, whether psychological or even price action itself, to move the informed investor out of the market. They want your shares, and they want you gone. So, what do we do? First of all, we stay informed. We do not stop. I do not buy it when people say the DD is done. Now, don't get me wrong. There's really good apes who mean really well when they say that, and I totally get the sentiment. It's like they're actually saying what I'm getting at. You cannot move me off this corner. So there are some who, when they say the DD is done, they just mean I'm not going anywhere. I don't even need to see anything else. You can't move me. Love that attitude. I do. And we got to keep fighting. There are people who need to keep doing DD and keep digging. So we stay informed. We stay on top of things, and we keep saying if something doesn't make sense, if it hits your BS meter, if your flags are up, if your gut doesn't feel right, if your ears perk up, listen and get informed. Dig then. That's your gut and your spirit and your mind saying it's time to dig. So do your DD. You got to know your thesis, Notice that word your. Do your DD, know your thesis, your conviction, your why, and your data. I can tell you all kinds of things, but I cannot make money for you. I cannot spend your money. I better not ever take your money, right? You got to do your DD. Now, I'm here to help. Other people are here to help. But again, I'm a dude on the internet. You don't know me. You need to fact check. You know, there's an account who I like to joke around with, about trusting bros. And I say, we don't trust bros around here. So if you're listening, I do laugh about that. We have some fun. But listen, it is your money. It is not Matt Kohrs' money. It is not Cohodes' money. It's not Adam's money. It's not my money. It's yours. So you need to do your DD. You need to know why you're in this. You need to know what you believe about this company and this stock so that the manipulator can't move you. And I just say question issues of character. If someone is showing themselves to have a problem in one area of their life, you can bet money that's not the only area of their life they have that problem. I'm not talking about not having grace, but I'm talking about if someone has moral deficiencies and then tells you what to do with your money, that is a red flag from the second it happens. And that's how, before I knew a thing about Cohodes, the first space call he came to, he was a terrible human. I'm not using that phrase lightly. I knew right away that is someone I would never listen to. It was just black and white for me. And then as I dug, I found more and more and more and more problems. So sometimes you know right away. So question issues of character. I'm not talking about a lack of forgiveness. I'm not talking about a lack of grace. But I am saying we're talking about your money here. And if someone lacks character, they may be trying to rip you off. There's too much of that. So look for people of character. Now, finally, you got to understand the lever of time in this. So I say following. I'm going to give you a little more on that. We say tick-tock, shorty, and we say it for a reason, because the clock is counting against them. Remind yourself, be that informed investor who cannot be moved from the market. They have cost to borrow. It is not free to hold a short position. I can hold a long position. Nobody's charging me to do that. Yes, I'm down on paper, and I'm down a lot, but I don't have to sell. I can stay here. They've got mark-to-market accounting. I'll show you a Reddit I did on that to explain it a little bit. It just means it causes them problems to hold their position. You can also look for some discussion about the end game. I've got that in a video somewhere. Sorry, I don't remember what one. I'll tell you sometime. But it's in a Reddit as well. Mark-to-market accounting is going to be part of their end game. It's what eventually gets that margin call for them. It's going to be related. Opportunity cost. They're stuck in this play. They're stuck with us. We're not stuck with them. They're stuck with us. And until they pay us, we're not going anywhere. And because their money is tied up in this play, whether through leverage, so that's back to the liquidity and the mark-to-market accounting bullets, whether through leverage or it's even cash, but it's tied up in this play and they cannot move it elsewhere. Because that requires covering. And remember, it's buy to cover. And when they start buying to cover, we fly. They've got liquidity issues. They better stay liquid. Did you see that Evergrande went down like 90% yesterday when it resumed trading? There's a lot of DD that says there's companies like Evergrande that were backing up their margin positions. It's collateral. When you lose your collateral, you better look out. And there's definitely part of this, whereas Ape finishes the conversion, as the settlement finishes, as this corporate action is finished, I'm not going to promise anything. You know that if you've been on this channel. I do not promise dates. I do not promise prices because I don't know them. And anybody who says they know them is full of it. They're hopium. They're out for clicks, or they're out to give you new despair. If I tell you $90 on Wednesday and we don't hit it, now you're bummed out. The manipulator, right? So here's the thing, though. As all these corporate actions finish, I do believe it puts pressure on their liquidity. I honestly believe that. Doesn't mean I'm right. I'm using that word believe. I cannot prove it to you. I would have to do more DD, but I do believe that. We'll see. Okay, you can find more. I mentioned that. There's 2 I'll point you to. I should have pointed you to a third. Really 4, actually. So I mentioned these 4 levers. I just talked about them, but you could go find a lot more detail. Let's go back. These are the 4. Cost to borrow, mark-to-market accounting, opportunity cost, liquidity. Those are all meaning the longer this play goes on, the worse it is for shorts. That's basically the point. Time is on our side, not theirs. I know it might not feel that way right now. But if they're affecting this with manipulation, that's not actually making money. They're not. They've got to buy to cover. Don't tell me they're in the green. They don't pocket that. That's on paper until they cover. All right, then there's this other Reddit. These are both, more than 2 years old, but they still apply, guys. They're part of the reason I'm still here. Liquidity margins and MOAS, they'll tell you a whole lot. That one's a long one, but it'll explain some of all of this and why I believe we'll squeeze. People sometimes ask me, do you actually believe in the squeeze? Because for a long time, I just didn't talk about it as much because I'm more of a fundamentals guy. I can do the math, I can do the forecasting, I can tell you how the business is going. So I got into that. But that's just because I also believe that's part of what will push these guys out. Forget the manipulator pushing out the informed investor. I'm trying to flip that. I am an informed investor, and I'm pushing back the manipulator. That's my point of view. That's what this channel is about. In the end, keep it simple. This is a slide I used to finish with on a lot of older videos. I'm just going to go through these because they're still relevant. I believe this company is not going bankrupt. I've been saying that for a long time. I believe more movies are coming than ever before since pre-COVID. Now, that was an older slide here, but it played out, didn't it? And there's still more coming. Yes, we have the strike. I'm going to acknowledge that. But big picture, the industry is moving the right way. I believe in the apes. I honestly do. I believe you guys are still here. I believe you're being given a picture. Let's think about you're being manipulated. You're being given a picture of sentiment, of who is here and who isn't here. But if you really dig deep and you think about the people you really know, and even the silent ones, guys, I've explained to you, my friends and family that are in, none of them is on social media. You guys don't know any of them. You haven't met them, you haven't seen them, you haven't interacted with them, so you wouldn't even know they exist. But I do, and I know they're in. I believe in the apes, and I believe it costs shorts to hold their position, and it's getting tough. In case you haven't noticed, our global macroeconomics are not great. That presents problems for over-leveraged positions, which describes where the manipulator is right now. So I can wait. Okay? Sorry guys, this froze. First time that's happened while I'm presenting. See if I can fix this. There we go. See if we can get this up. Derailed a little, but the point still matters. If we simplify even further, I can't be manipulated because I like movies, I like popcorn, I like candy, and I like the stock. Let's go.